Good day, everyone. Welcome to Perspectives in Focus. I am James Hicks from Hicks New Media, and today we have a fantastic discussion. I've got the principles from KnowLabs. KnowLabs is transforming how we analyze and monitor molecules non-evasively, with a key focus on the word non-evasively. They've built and designed a platform utilizing wearable and mobile devices. The initial focus for their technology is a glucose monitoring device, and they have plans to further develop their devices, their science, their technology, and their platform. I will not delay anymore and would like to definitely welcome the guests today. I've got Mr. Ron Erickson, founder and chairman of KnowLabs, and James Andy Anderson, MD. Andy Anderson. I love that part right there. I'm just going to gleam onto that. But gentlemen, welcome to the show. I'm glad you spent some time today.
Great. Thanks, James. Appreciate it very much. Pleasure.
Thank you very much. Listen, let's get focused. Let's talk about this, because when we were initially talking about your platform, your technology, where you are today, where you're looking to go, it was just incredibly intriguing, and I really want to make sure that we have the opportunity to share that with everyone here who's listening and watching. So, Mr. Erickson, let's start with you, sir, and if you could just tell us a little bit about how, why, when, where, the start of KnowLabs.
Right. Well, we've been working on this technology for a number of years. Actually, it goes back to really about 2007 when we first started some of the early discussions about the technology. And it started, interestingly enough, around a conversation about the vanity of human perception, right? We have, as humans, we have three colors, three color receptors. We have red, blue, and green. And as you look at that, you discover that there are other species that have a greater capacity for discerning color difference than we do. And a shrimp, for example, has 17 color receptors. A bumblebee has 32 color receptors. So they're seeing things that we can't see. And out of that conversation, we developed some early technology using LEDs to identify, authenticate, and diagnose using color outside the humanly visible portion of the spectrum in the infrared and ultraviolet. Over time, as we developed that technology, and it was from the very beginning a platform technology that, as I say, allowed us to identify, authenticate, and diagnose, we began to kind of think about, well, what should our first product be? What should we do first? And around that time, I met Phil Boshua, who's our CEO, and hopefully, James, they'll have an opportunity to meet Phil soon. Phil and I met and had a conversation about what I was doing, and we talked about his background. And I asked Phil if he could spare some time, a couple of months, to work with me to try to discover what a first product could be. What's the first thing we should do with this platform technology to come to market? And started playing in the lab and started having some early successes identifying glucose in the human body. And as we first started thinking about that, and people, if you see some of our early press releases, our early public filings, we thought initially we might do something that was a calorie counter. And of course, in doing that, we were going to have to look at glucose. But we began to see that we were getting very exacting results as compared to finger stick, as compared to the Dexcom product then, which was the G5. And so we said, the global addressable market for people that care about blood glucose is huge. And so let's just focus really in a laser way on blood glucose. Yeah. Around that time, through a mutual acquaintance, I met Dr. Anderson. And Andy, by background, spent many years at Eli Lilly, spent a number of years working on clinical trials for diabetic-related products, and has really significant expertise as an endocrinologist in the arena of therapeutics and diagnostics around diabetes. And we met through an acquaintance, and I told him casually on the phone what we were working on here in Seattle, and his response, which I'll never forget, he said, at Lilly, I saw 50 attempts at doing non-invasive blood glucose, and none of them worked. Wow. So I challenged him to come to Seattle. I said, Andy, how how'd you like to come to Seattle? Come to our lab, see what we're doing. And actually, I should probably pass the baton to Andy because Andy flew to Seattle and spent a day in the lab. And um, Andy, you talk about your first experience seeing what we were doing.
Well, as skeptical as I was of any type of device like that, um, they showed me the raw data,
Mm.
and they were concerned that the instrument wasn't working right because they were getting a lot of peaks and valleys in their readings. And I looked at it and I said, you know, this is what actually convinces me you actually are measuring glucose. Um, if you look at a curve of glucose,
Having some delays there on his iPad. Is man, I sure do hope he comes back so we can
whoop,
get that story. You're got a little latency on your side, sir. I tell you what, when you as you get back on online there, so Mr. Erickson, talk to us again a little
Yeah.
bit about. Uh, Thank you for the introduction to what No Labs is, how you started, but and I hinted to it early about the devices, right? The mobile devices and the wearables and things like that. But talk to us a little bit about what you're working on today.
Okay, so what we're working on today, and we recently had a press release that talked about our internal results. Our internal results, as you compare our non-invasive Bio-RFID sensor technology with fingerstick, with Dexcom G6, with Abbott Labs Freestyle Libre, we're getting very exacting results. We're getting results that are, that are stellar. Our results are the meet the gold standard, if you will, with regards to
Mm-hmm.
blood glucose analysis. Our first product is a product we call KnowU, and it's a product that you could sit on your kitchen counter, you could have in your bathroom, and it has a little puck-like device that you can then put in your purse or your briefcase or your pocket as you go about your day. Uh, the device, as it sits on your counter, will have a readout and give your blood glucose. The puck device that you'd carry with yourself, that's a device that would connect via Bluetooth, and there you can see that little puck. It would connect via Bluetooth to your smartphone. So you have basically blood glucose on the go. Um, that is the product that we are testing today internally. That is the product that is giving us really these extraordinary results,
Mm-hmm.
and that's the product that we're initially going to go to the FDA with this coming year to obtain approval so that we can move into the market with this product. That's our first product. Our second product, which really is just a miniaturized version of this, is a wrist wearable that we call the U-band. And there again, there you see that it's a wrist wearable. It's about the size of other wearables that are common in the marketplace. This will connect via a Bluetooth to your smartphone and will give you information on your blood glucose levels on a continuous basis. The KnowU is more episodic. If you want to check your blood glucose 2, 3, 5, 8 times a day, whatever, you can do that non-invasively. The U-band is a more continuous device. The other thing to keep in mind about both of these devices, when I say they're a platform, they are a platform. So the first, if you will, the first application of the platform is blood glucose monitoring.
Okay.
But this very same device can do other things. We have a list of 100 analytes, 100 molecules involving human health and wellness that we're going to be able to discern, to identify uh, with our platform technology. So as we do other things, and Dr. Anderson has a long list of those that he thinks are really important for human health and wellness, and we can touch upon a few of those, uh, you're not going to change your device. What you're going to change is the what you're seeing on your smartphone. Right?
Okay. So everything's driven through the platform, through the mobile application, as opposed to the physical device that we either have on our wrist. Things. Okay.
Yeah, well, and that device on your wrist, or that device on your kitchen counter, that device has the capacity as a platform to identify blood glucose, your glucose levels, but many other analytes relating to human health and wellness. For example, I mean, Andy could speak to this, but he has a list that he thinks are
I can imagine.
key critical.
And Dr. Anderson, I guess I want to go into a little bit of that, obviously. And when I look at diabetes, type 1, type 2, things of that, blood glucose, and a new product coming to market, right? And thinking, and we talked a little bit about this a couple of weeks ago when we were saying, what is Dexcom? What is Abbott Labs going to say? How do you change perception? How do you change the way folks are already going about monitoring these types of conditions and things of that nature? What's in it for me from a no labs perspective, and from a medical conversation perspective, Dr. Anderson? I guess if I could ask you that question first.
Yeah, it is something that is key to the whole philosophy of what we're doing at No Labs. One, the program is non-invasive. That means no pain, but it also means no fear. So a subject is not going to hesitate in measuring their glucose, and that's going to lead to better outcomes. There are no consumables with the U band devices or the KnowU. So there's no waste. So this clearly fits in with the movement toward a green declaration in diabetes. It is ready to use anytime the patient wants to measure their glucose, if they're using the KnowU or continuously with the U band. It's a one-time initial cost. There's no follow-up cost for supplies, anything like that. It can be used both continuously or discontinuously. And as I said, because of the fact there's no pain and no cost, there's no hesitancy for a patient to measure their glucose. It's also much easier to use. It will work instantaneously. There won't be a 5-hour or 2-day warm up or equilibration with the thing. The platform is also unique and different from all of the other devices that are in the market or under research now, in that it is not limited to measuring only glucose. It's not using glucose oxidase like most of the other devices use. So we can measure anything. And in fact, we have already shown in trial that we can measure alcohol, we can measure oxygen, we can measure a variety of different drugs. And we can measure electrolytes. So it's really a platform that we're advocating. And the ability to facilitate the measurement of all of these different products makes it a key in being able to provide a unique tool to further advance precision medicine and precision diagnostics. It clearly is going to be a game changer in the way we approach diagnostics, monitoring, and even therapy.
Well, you just covered 3 or 4 of my questions right there. So, I mean, it's almost like you've done this before. Because I was definitely, I wanted to know what makes no lab's different than the competition, what's already out there. Again, like I said, the what's in it for me, or kind of what separates you from other technologies. And we haven't even mentioned the word or the phrase Bio-RFID yet, right? And that technology. And I'm not sure if you, Mr. Erickson, or you, Dr. Anderson, want to talk a little bit about what makes Bio-RFID unique out there as opposed to, again, what's already out in the marketplace right now. Because again, I think from my perspective, we're trying to change perspectives, right? And we're trying to change people's norms once your technology fully hits the marketplace to make it really so they can see the value of what it is that you're providing, not just glucose monitoring, not just what's already out there today, but kind of leaps and bounds above what's going on today. So I'm not sure who would want to talk about.
No, but I think both of us can respond. I mean, let me just, set the table with a couple of things. Bio-RFID. So what we're doing is, to use more technical language, we're doing radio frequency spectroscopy. Spectroscopy has been around a long time. We use radio frequency to identify analytes molecules in the human body, and we do that non-invasively. So part of what we're doing is, it's very disruptive. So, just to follow up on some of the things Dr. Anderson said in terms of telemedicine, in terms of distance medicine, because, the diagnostics can be done remotely, right? Without a blood draw. We've had people say, well, how are you different than Theranos? Well, the big difference between us and Theranos is we're an open book. You can come into our lab, you can look at our raw data, you can look at everything we're doing,
Wow.
and we're transparent. We're transparent because we're doing something that we wholeheartedly believe in. All of our internal evidence supports the assertions we make. We're happy to share those with people, and so we're really committed to making a difference in society and in human health and wellness. One of the terms I like to use is we're going to be democratizing medicine. So if you will, you're moving this out of the lab to your wrist, right? And we'll be able to gather quality, verifiable information that can help your healthcare provider make some judgments about you. The other thing that we think about here, and that we're very serious about over time, as you gather data with our sweeps, with our data sweeps, with RF spectroscopies, we gather data, and that data is longitudinal. It's in the cloud, and we have, let's say, a month's worth of data on you, James, or 6 months worth of data. And putting our algorithms, our trade secret algorithms, artificial intelligence, machine learning capacity against that data, we're going to be able to discern some trends. And we might be able to say, we do believe this over time. Looks like you're trending toward diabetes. Looks like you're trending toward heart disease. We think all of those things are inherent in the capacity of our platform to identify a multitude of analytes in the human body. So we really do believe that over time, our technology can be transformative, make a significant difference in human health and wellness as a diagnostic tool, as a predictor, if you will. So we couldn't be more excited about it. And Andy's been such a great champion for us, and he can add to what I just said from the medical and the science standpoint.
Yeah, without giving a 2-hour long lecture on the physics of Bio-RFID, the key here is that most devices that are continuous glucose monitors measure glucose by a specific enzyme. What we're doing is actually using the spectroscopy to fingerprint a molecule that's in the body. So we're not dependent upon a particular enzyme. Therefore, we can do multiple different analytes. The ability to actually know what's going on with your glucose is obvious to any professional or patient with diabetes. But one of the interesting things came out in a publication just in May of this year from Dr. Gene Wright in the Carolinas, and it was a study which compared the patients who were taking with type 2 diabetes who were taking basal insulin and monitoring their glucose, or just monitoring their glucose with continuous glucose monitoring. And the ones who were just using the monitor actually had a better outcome and a lowering of their hemoglobin A1C. So this is a good example of why we are very excited about the fact that we are moving in the direction of using the KnowLab devices in type 2 diabetes and in individuals with pre-diabetes. Unfortunately, more than 90% of people with prediabetes don't know that they have prediabetes.
Wow.
So if we can get this, out to the individuals who may be at risk or have a history, we may be able to actually prevent or slow down the development of type 2 diabetes, which obviously is much more preferable than simply being able to monitor and treat diabetes once it fully develops. Because we know that as diabetes develops in the pre-diabetes stage, you've got 8 to 10 years of damage occurring to your kidneys, to your heart, to your blood vessels, to your eyes, to your nerves. So we want to be ahead of the game. We want to be out there actually helping wellness, not just treating disease.
Absolutely.
Go ahead. Go ahead, sir.
I'm going to add something to that. Latest data, there are more than 500 million type 1 and type 2 people with diabetes in the world, more than 500 million. Okay. Dr. Anderson indicated a few months ago that the number of people with prediabetes is perhaps 2.5 to 3 times that. So let's put some big numbers. Let's say 1.5 billion to 2 billion people in the world have diabetes or prediabetes. We believe that our addressable market is that entire group of people, because we intend to come to market with something that costs $100, let's say, or we don't know exactly, but it's going to be very inexpensive, and then we may charge $50 a month. So let's say all in annual cost under $1,000. And you don't have disposables. It is kind of a green declaration, a sustainable declaration for the diabetes community. The people doing it now, finger sticks, cost $1. If there are 15 million people in America pricking their finger 3 or 4 times a day, whatever the number is, we're talking very big numbers. Yeah. The Dexcom and Abbott Labs cost thousands of dollars a year, and they have to be changed every 10 days to 2 weeks. Disposables, and it can run you $4,000 a year for one of those, $2,500 for the other, let's say. So, and if you're a pre-diabetic, first of all, you're unlikely to prick your finger, right? You resist that, and it's unlikely you might be able to afford it yourself, but unlikely you're going to get insurance reimbursement for something that costs over $4,000 if you're a pre-diabetic. It's just not going to happen. So we look at this based on, collaborating with Andy and his lifelong sense of this marketplace and what the diabetes community is interested in, addressing that very large market, 1.5 billion to 2 billion worldwide, with something that is relatively competitive price-wise, and very competitive price-wise, and is non-invasive. And, by the way, is a platform that over time is going to be able to help identify other things important to human health and wellness.
You touched on like 2 or 3 things that I really wanted to make sure don't get glossed over, right? In terms of the folks that are watching and listening and things like that. Just the fact that if you don't have diabetes today, or you're pre-diabetic, but yet still the importance of monitoring and managing glucose levels. if Doctor, if you may want to go back and go a little bit deeper into that conversation, but I wanted to bring that up because when you started talking about the addressable market, and then Mr. Erickson, when you started talking about the pricing, right? Because now it's making sense, right? Now it's hitting home with a lot of folks. It's either coming out of an HSA, it's coming out of a PP, it's coming out of that, or it's coming directly out of pocket. And when you start talking about 3 digits versus 4 digits, that's where things start making sense as well. And then I really like the fact how you mentioned just now that it's an ever evolving platform for overall wellness. It's not just a one trick pony, right? It's not just out there to do one thing. It's going to do one thing phenomenally, but there's so much more that you're working on and already progressed down the road on. So Dr. Anderson, if you could talk a little bit about, the question I just mentioned about, I don't have diabetes. I'm just going to be a facetious question. I don't have diabetes. Why is my glucose levels? Why does that matter? Why is that important? And then, Mr. Erickson, if you could talk a little bit about, again, the fact that what you just ended on, that evolution of your platform, so it really starts to resonate with folks who are starting to hear about you, are going to start reading about you, and understanding that this could be an opportune option for them as well in their situations.
I'd be happy to address that. Most people are well aware of the fact that with the push toward cholesterol testing and lowering blood pressure, there has been a significant decrease over the year in heart disease. Not eliminated, but a bit of a decrease. What hasn't been known, because there's no way of conveniently measuring it, is what is actually happening with glucose in the person as they develop diabetes. Certain physicians will tell you that if everyone lived long enough, everybody would develop diabetes. It's sort of a fate of humankind. But the problem is that it doesn't cause any symptoms, doesn't cause any pain. So people don't realize that their glucose is spiking higher and higher. And it's the spikes in glucose that really cause the damage to the nerves and the blood vessels and the organs. So if we can find a way to make people aware of what their glucose is doing, what the effect of eating the pizza is going to be, what the effect of that ice cream, any of the things that we tend to eat, they can be much more aware and hopefully adopt a much healthier lifestyle in terms of meal planning and their activity. Again, even activity will cause a change in the glucose for the good. And if people are aware of that, that will be an encouragement to them to do the physical activity, do the steps per day, etc., that will lead to better health.
Awesome. And I love this question here as well. And we were going to answer this question soon in terms of availability and probability of it being. Mr. Erickson, maybe if you want to address that right now, because we were going to get into it in a few minutes.
Absolutely. So we are we're moving as fast as we can. We want to have this in front of the FDA. We want to have FDA approval. We want to get this in the marketplace as fast as we can. I think one of the things that has happened over the last 2 years, we've all been chastened by COVID, and the understanding whenever you're dealing with third parties in this complex world, things always take longer than you think they're going to take. So we've really steered away from timelines. What I will say is that we're about to undertake comprehensive internal testing, which is all a prelude to going to the FDA. We've also put in place all of those rigorous aspects of record keeping that are required by the FDA. Our our hope is to be in front of the FDA this coming year and to undertake clinical trials as approved by the FDA for our device. So we're just moving on it as rapidly as we can, with as forcefully as we can, and we're eager to get it into the marketplace. Eager to have FDA approval.
I love that. Let me ask a question about the physical device as well. And again, forgive my ignorance, maybe the third person looking in from a monitoring perspective, but calibration of these devices, is that something that needs to happen? And how different, similar would that be versus the Dexcom versus the Abbott Labs versus something that No Labs is going to be providing?
Yeah, Ron, if I can address that.
Please, Andy.
In the history of the development of continuous monitoring devices, the initial devices have all had a requirement for calibration and confirmation of therapeutic decisions by finger stick. As their technology and their years of experience with patients has grown, these requirements have become much more liberal, so that now your Dexcom and your Freestyle don't require confirmation finger sticks, and they're moving toward not requiring any calibration. So we think that our technology, because of the accuracy, the ability to consistently measure glucose accurately enough that we, in our study in the lab, have consistently gotten better results in something, the mean deviation from the glucose reference standards. We have been able to show that our accuracy is such that we are quite hopeful that we will not require any type of calibration or finger stick confirmation for the use of the glucose value for therapeutic decisions.
When you do things too well, you're going to have some haters out there. That's probably the best way that I can put it. And I'm going to ask that question. I'm going to ask this question to both of you. Your numbers are looking good. Your promise is looking good. The other folks out there in the industry are watching you. And are you working in collaboration? Are folks, cheering and rah-rahing you through, or kind of putting the spike strip out in front of you, trying to make you feel? Again, it's just a question that I'm asking. It seems like, again, we're looking for the betterment of the world, trying to solve big problems, and you've already got a great head start. You've got such a head start against other companies who have been doing smaller, significant yet more focused things for a longer period of time. I just wonder, what that looks like amongst the circles, right, within the medical, within the science, within the technology circles, as you start talking to your peers about what it is that you're bringing to market. And does that make people uncomfortable about their space within the industry, or does it make them celebratory for the fact that Dr. Anderson and Mr. Erickson are doing some good things out there?
I think, James, people keep their own counsel. We have people who are that we're going to disintermediate, right? I haven't used that term in a long time, but we're a disruptive disintermediating force, right? Yeah. And it's a big word. But you think about, Dexcom's got a $60 billion market cap with something that costs over $4,000 a year with a lot of disposables. So no doubt they're paying attention to us, right? Yeah. No doubt they're paying attention to us, and other people are paying attention to us. I would have no doubt, right? They don't talk to us necessarily. They're not. So, but we have to, just the way we operate, we have to I don't want to use the old Andy Grove line, only the paranoid survive. I think that was the title of Grove's book back in the day. But what we do is we pay a lot of attention to our competition, both the direct competition and people that we think are, could be lurking in the shadows. We pay a lot of attention to our IP portfolio. We have 57 patents issued and pending. We've got more in the pipe. We file patents. We have really solid foundational patents. We file patents offensively and defensively. We look at the white space. We look diligently at what other people are doing, and we try to make sure that we have, that, if you will, that armor. In terms of a competitive world, we have strong intellectual property, and we also have trade secrets. We have our proprietary algorithms, artificial intelligence, machine learning, that we protect diligently, those trade secrets. So, but I think at the same time, we have no illusions about the fact that if you're a disintermediator, if somebody's got a $60 billion market cap, he is not your friend, right?
Yeah.
Not your friend.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I mean, it's, but all I can say about that is we are focused on what we're doing. We're focused on what we're doing. And we're doing it with singular focus. We, at this point in our life cycle, do not want to be collaborating with anyone external. Okay. We're just paying attention, to use that old phrase, paying attention to our knitting. We're doing our thing, and we're focused on what we're doing. There will be time, over time, where it might make strategic sense to be collaborating with somebody, right? Somebody might say, wouldn't it be interesting to have your technology in all of our hundreds of millions of devices, right? That could be interesting. But we need to focus, and that's what we're doing. We're focused, laser focused, and doing it our way right now.
I appreciate
with all the diligence we can muster.
Good stuff, and I appreciate you answering that question. And I brought it up because I do typically like to focus on the science and the technology and the greater good of what's going on. But I know, and we all know, right? People listening and watching, there are also folks looking at it from the financial perspective, right? With you being a public company, yeah. So they're also going to have concerns or questions about strategic goals, roadmaps, and things of that nature. So I didn't want to have any assumptions. I actually wanted to have the
that's true. That's true. So, we're fiduciaries. I'm a fiduciary. And so we have to look out for all the stakeholders, large and small. And, we are focused on excellence, doing a great job, bringing something into the marketplace and the global marketplace that can make a difference in people's lives. That's our focus. And by the same token, we're fiduciaries, and we're looking out for all shareholders, large and small, and all of our other stakeholders. So, that's all key to what it is we do. There was an earlier question I saw across the screen about insurance, and this is something that Andy and I talked about early on, and because we have something that could probably, if the competition is minimally invasive with a needle that goes in your stomach, they call it a filament, and it costs more than $4,000 a year. Could we come to market with something that costs $1,500 a year, $2,000 a year? In other words, could we come to market with a higher price point because we've got something that works and that is completely non-invasive and a platform? And if you did that, of course, that would require insurance reimbursement, and it's a higher hurdle. We want broad adoption of what it is we're doing. We want to make a big difference in human health and wellness. That's why we want to keep the pricing low and as competitive as possible. So when and I'm going to show you what a U-band might look like, right? Not very big, fit on your wrist. We want to keep this very competitive, inexpensive, and broadly available. Because if you're going after that addressable market, 1.5 billion, 2 billion people in the world, you want to make sure it's ultimately available for as many people as possible.
Right? Awesome. Let me ask this question and start with you, Dr. Anderson. The last 15, 16, 17 months, the world kind of stopped. and I'm sure that had some effects, positive, negative, what pros, cons, and things of that nature. But how has the advent, right, of COVID caused no labs to either pause or to refocus priorities, if in and of itself maybe, but has there been any detriment or any slowdown in terms of progress due to the past 15, 16 months or so?
Certainly, there has been no slowdown in our motivation to remain focused and go forward. Um, it has, as in all facets of life, had effects of the inability to have, you know, person-to-person meetings. It certainly has affected our friends at the Food and Drug Administration. They're just now getting back on track with diabetes devices. They had a huge backlog of requests. But we feel that the current state now will allow us to go forward much more rapidly with the clinical testing than we were able to do during all of the lockdowns. It's hard to gather 200 people together for a clinical test
Right.
if they have to stay at home.
Makes sense. Makes sense.
So we're really excited that we now have the opportunity to advance the throttle and move even faster than we were.
Awesome. From a short term, from a midterm, from a long term perspective, I'll start with you, Mr. Erickson. What's going on out there? No, from a trajectory perspective, we've kind of talked to and around it a little bit, but I wonder if you can put a little bit more concrete answers around, again, short term and long term kind of future for Know Labs, if you don't mind.
Well, having been an entrepreneur for a long, long time, I think the very first thing is focus, right? Focus, and we're focused on blood glucose. What we're looking to do, we're a bulletin board company today, and we're looking in terms of the capital markets to uplist to NASDAQ. We think that'll give us more coverage. Analysts will cover us. Institutions will buy us. It'll give us, more liquidity in the stock. And we belong on NASDAQ, and we want to do that as soon as practicable. As we continue to focus on blood glucose, and that's sort of, as we talked about that large addressable market, and as we have human and financial resources, because we're first focused on glucose, we don't want to take people in the team away from that. We'll start to focus on other analytes. Now when we've had time, as Dr. Anderson mentioned, we've successfully done blood alcohol, we've done blood oxygen, we have done aspirin and Tylenol. We can see when they hit your bloodstream, and those are proxies for other therapeutics to let you know for certain that your grandmother took the drug she was supposed to take. I mean, that's another application of this. So we will start focusing on other analytes, and the way the FDA works, we'll be going to the FDA, which is with what's called a de novo application, because nobody before us has done anything quite like this. Once we get that initial approval of the blood glucose, then as we go on with further analytes, right? And let's say, for example, one Dr. Anderson has mentioned, a woman's progesterone levels. We would have a predicate device, the blood glucose, and so when you're going back to the FDA, it's a different process because we'd be adding additional applications to the platform. So I think that that's something that we're very excited about, is sort of adding to the platform, adding for the global customer base, other important analytes that can help them with human health and wellness. So, in terms of and I think that, look, if you post FDA approval, what do I see as everybody likes to talk about the hockey stick stick for a company like ours. Well, one of the things, if Dexcom's got a $60 billion market cap, we have a market cap today of under $100 million. If our market cap was 1% of Dexcom's, we'd have a market cap of $600 million. And, you take a 6x on our current stock, that puts our stock at $12. So, I think we're dramatically undervalued today as compared to the other people in the marketplace doing what we're doing, and they don't have a platform. We do. So I think as we identify those opportunities over time, as we uplist to NASDAQ, I think there'll be, it'll all be reflected in the value we provide to ultimately to our customers, to people around the world, and to our stakeholders and shareholders.
Makes sense. Makes sense. I took Dr. Anderson off the screen. He was. I thought he had a great poker face. To be honest, I thought that's what was going on right there. But his screen looked like it had frozen once again, so I took him off the screen.
We're going to work on his bandwidth. We're going to work on
that's what we're going to do, right? We're going to work on that. Get him going for sure. Certainly. I just want to first and foremost say thank you for taking the time to talk about the who, the why, the what, and the how, right, of No Labs, because what you're doing, I think, is phenomenal, fantastic. As the statement that you mentioned about an addressable market, right, is huge, and I'm really glad that we got to go into the discussion about pricing for the individual, right? Because the science and the technology and the medicine matter, but at the end of the day, right, it's what's coming out of my back pocket to manage this environment. So I think just the fact that you're cognizant of that as well for the consumer matters, and I'm glad we got the chance to talk about that. Your locations of where folks can reach you, I'm going to actually put things in the description of this video and of this session as well, so folks can log on. But besides the LinkedIn page, or if you can give the URL for your website, that'd be amazing.
knowlabs.co, and people usually mess that up and put .com, but it's .co, KNOWLABS.co.
Awesome. Mr. Erickson, I appreciate you, sir. Mr. Anderson, I appreciate you. I'm looking in the back room there. He still looks frozen. I'm not sure what's going on, but you know what? We did get to have the dialogue and the conversation. Yeah. And I know that there are going to be more questions coming of this, and more interest. I wish you and your company nothing but the greatest success.
We're an open book, James. Anybody can ask any questions they wish. We're eager to speak with people out there about what we're doing. We're so excited about it. So thank you very much for the opportunity. Appreciate
you, sir. Be well.
Thank you.